The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber stretched high above the assembled alien representatives. 12 different species sat in their designated sections, each one convinced of their own superiority over the countless worlds they ruled. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime to convert hundreds of different languages into something resembling understanding. Commander Taman stood at the center podium, his scaled purple skin gleaming under the artificial lights. His species, the Vorthak, had conquered more star systems than any other race in the hegemony. Today he brought news that would amuse the council greatly. "Honored members," Taman began, his voice carrying the arrogance that came with centuries of easy victories. "I bring you intelligence reports from the Outer Rim. The humans of Sol 3 have made contact." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. The insectoid Clixin clicked their mandibles in what passed for amusement among their kind. The energy beings known as Luminar pulsed with brighter colors, their version of humor. Even the normally serious Nethrim delegation showed what might have been smiles on their tentacled faces. "Humans?" High Counselor Vextor's voice dripped with contempt. "Those primitive mammals who barely managed to crawl off their own planet? What could they possibly want?" Taman activated the holographic display above his head. Images of Earth's crude space stations appeared, followed by laughably small human ships that looked like toys compared to the massive vessels the hegemony commanded. The human technology appeared primitive beyond belief. Fusion drives that any civilized species had abandoned thousands of years ago, and weapons that threw chunks of metal instead of using proper energy beams. "They sent us a message," Taman continued, enjoying the anticipation building in the chamber. "They wish to establish diplomatic relations with the galactic hegemony." The laughter that erupted was deafening. Representatives from all 12 species joined in, their various forms of expressing amusement creating a cacophony that echoed through the dome. Some slapped appendages against their chairs, others made sounds that resembled choking, and the energy beings flashed so brightly that the chamber's automatic dimming systems activated. Diplomatic relations. Counselor Zilix of the Clixin hive mind spoke through 1,000 voices at once, creating an eerie harmony. What could these creatures possibly offer us? Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. Their ships are so slow they would take decades to reach the nearest hegemony outpost. Taman nodded, his expression showing mock seriousness. "Indeed, Counselor. Our intelligence suggests they have only recently achieved fusion power. They still use chemical rockets for most of their space travel. Their largest warship carries fewer weapons than our smallest patrol craft." The hologram shifted to show human military installations. The aliens studied the images with the same interest they might show when examining particularly amusing insects. Earth's defenses looked pathetic. A few orbital platforms, some asteroid mining operations, and ships that wouldn't last 10 seconds against proper hegemony vessels. "Look at this!" Taman pointed to an image of Earth's moon base. "They think hiding behind their satellite will protect them. Their most advanced weapon appears to be some sort of kinetic cannon that fires solid projectiles. We have not seen such primitive technology since we uplifted the Corvin species 3,000 years ago." High Counselor Vextor leaned forward, in his biomechanical chair. As the oldest member of the council, he had witnessed the conquest of hundreds of worlds. "What response do you recommend, Commander?" "The standard approach for primitive species, honored Counselor. We offer them the choice, immediate surrender and incorporation into the hegemony as a tributary species, or complete annihilation. Given their obvious technological inferiority, I expect they will choose wisely. The Luminar representative pulsed with what seemed like curiosity. Their population? Approximately 8 billion, scattered across one planet and a few orbital installations. Nothing we cannot handle with a single fleet group. In fact, I volunteer the third fleet for this operation. My crews have been bored lately, and this might provide some entertainment. More laughter filled the chamber. The idea that humans could pose any threat to the mighty hegemony was beyond absurd. These were the same aliens who had conquered star-spanning civilizations, who had turned entire solar systems into industrial complexes, who commanded weapons that could crack planets apart. Very well, High Counselor Vextor declared. Send the humans our standard ultimatum. 72 hours to surrender unconditionally or face the consequences. Commander Taman, you may take your third fleet to oversee their compliance. I doubt you will need more than a few hours to convince them. Taman bowed deeply, already imagining the easy victory ahead. It will be my honor, High Counselor. Should I prepare accommodation for human representatives? Only if they surrender immediately, Vextor replied. If they show even the slightest resistance, make an example of them. Other primitive species need to understand what happens when they waste our time. The council session moved on to other matters: trade disputes between member species, resource allocation for new conquest campaigns, and the usual political maneuvering that kept the hegemony functioning. The humans were forgotten almost immediately, dismissed as just another minor annoyance that would be resolved within days. Meanwhile, light years away in the Sol system, Admiral Jisoo Park sat in her command center deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon. The woman's dark eyes studied the incoming transmission with an expression that revealed nothing of her thoughts. Around her, dozens of technicians monitored screens showing data streams from across human space. "Ma'am!" called out Lieutenant Soyeon Kang from her communications station. "We're receiving the hegemony's response to our diplomatic overture." Jisoo nodded without taking her eyes off the tactical display. "Put it through." The holographic image of Commander Taman materialized in the center of the command center. His scaled features showed nothing but arrogance and barely concealed contempt as he delivered his message. "Humans of Sol 3. Taman's voice carried across space with typical alien superiority. "The galactic hegemony has received your primitive attempt at communication. We offer you the same choice we offer all inferior species: immediate and unconditional surrender or complete destruction." The message continued for several minutes, listing the terms of surrender that would essentially make humanity slaves to alien masters. Earth would provide resources and labor, human technology would be confiscated, and the population would be relocated to serve hegemony interests across the galaxy. "You have 72 hours to respond," Taman concluded. "Do not mistake our generosity for weakness. Comply, and your species may survive as servants. Resist, and we will erase every trace of human existence from this universe. The choice is yours." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Several junior officers looked nervous, but Admiral Jisoo simply smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Lieutenant Kang," she said calmly, "open a channel to all human installations. Priority Alpha." "Channel open, ma'am." Jisoo stood, her voice carrying clearly throughout human space. "All stations, this is Admiral Park. The aliens have made their intentions clear. They see us as primitive, weak, and helpless. They expect us to surrender without a fight. She paused, her smile growing wider. I think it's time we showed them exactly what. Deep beneath the mountains of South Korea, Dr. Hyun-woo Kim walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The facility stretched for kilometers underground, hidden from satellite detection by layers of quantum shielding that bent light and energy around it like water flowing around a stone. No alien scanner could detect what lay beneath these mountains. The scientists' footsteps echoed in the vast hangar bay, where humanity's greatest secret waited. 12 ships hung in magnetic suspension fields, their dark hulls absorbing light, rather than reflecting it. These vessels looked nothing like the crude human ships the aliens had seen in their intelligence reports. Where those ships were bulky and primitive, these were sleek predators designed for one purpose: war. Status report, Hyun-woo called out as he approached the lead vessel. Engineer Sun-hee looked up from her control panel, her fingers dancing, across holographic displays that showed readings in languages the galaxy had never seen. All quantum drives are stable, Doctor. The reality anchors are charged and ready. Ship's AI reports full combat readiness. Hyun-woo nodded, studying the vessel that had consumed 20 years of his life. The Soul's Vengeance looked deceptively small compared to alien dreadnoughts, but appearances meant nothing when dealing with technology that operated outside normal space-time. This ship could phase between dimensions, becoming completely invisible to any known detection method. What about the World Breaker? He asked, referring to the massive weapon hidden in the asteroid belt. Final calibrations are complete, Sun-hee replied. The quantum tunneling matrix is locked and loaded. One shot as planned. Captain Min-ho Lee emerged from the ship's access ramp, his expression serious but confident. At 35, he was young for a ship captain, but he had spent his entire adult life training for this moment. Behind him came his crew of 47. Men and women, each one a specialist in technologies that would rewrite the laws of physics. Captain, Hyun-woo greeted him. Are your people ready? We've been ready for years, Doctor, Min-ho replied. The question is whether the aliens are ready for us. The irony was not lost on any of them. For decades, humanity had pretended to struggle with basic space travel, while secretly developing weapons that operated on principles no other species had imagined. Every crude fusion drive the aliens had seen was real, but it was also camouflage. Every primitive kinetic weapon was functional, but it hid the true nature of human military technology. In another part of the facility, President Naeon Cho stood before a wall of screens showing the locations of every human military asset in the solar system. As Earth's elected leader, she carried the weight of 8 billion lives on her shoulders. The decision she was about to make would either save humanity or doom it to extinction. General Nam, she said to the stern-faced man beside her, give me our final assessment. General Woo-jin Nam had spent his career preparing for this day. He understood better than anyone that humanity's survival depended on making the aliens believe they were facing helpless prey, right up until the moment they revealed their true nature. Our deep space monitoring stations confirm the alien fleet is assembling at the edge of the Oort cloud, he reported. 3,000 vessels, just as our projections predicted. They're following standard hegemony siege doctrine, overwhelming force applied to a supposedly inferior opponent. And our response? President Cho asked. Phase 1 is already in motion. Our decoy fleet is moving to intercept using conventional technology. The aliens will destroy them easily, confirming their belief in our primitive capabilities. Phase 2 begins when they reach Mars orbit. The president turned to study the tactical display. Red dots showed the massive alien fleet approaching, while blue dots represented humanity's visible defenses. To any observer, the outcome was obvious. Humanity was hopelessly outmatched. But the display did not show the ships hidden in dimensional pockets throughout the solar system. It did not reveal the weapons that could punch holes through reality itself. It did not account for technology that had been developed in absolute secrecy for the better part of a century. "Dr. Kim," the president called out, "walk me through the science one more time." Hyunwoo activated a holographic model showing the principles behind their quantum tunneling weapons. Normal weapons travel through space and can be detected, tracked, and stopped. Our weapons travel through folded dimensions, emerging directly inside the target. There is no defense because the attack comes from a direction that does not exist in normal space. And the reality anchors? They lock our ships into stable dimensional pockets. We can exist in normal space or phase into parallel dimensions at will. To the aliens, we simply vanish and reappear without warning. President Cho nodded slowly. The science was almost impossible to comprehend, but the results spoke for themselves. Humanity had spent 100 years letting the galaxy think they were primitive while secretly developing weapons that would terrify civilizations millions of years old. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Soyeon Kang's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Park requests permission to begin Phase 1. "Granted," the president replied. "And Lieutenant, tell the Admiral that humanity is counting on her." Miles above, Admiral Jisoo Park stood on the bridge of the command ship Terra's Wrath. Through the reinforced viewing ports, she could see the stars that held both promise and threat for humanity's future. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, each person knowing that the fate of their species rested on the next few hours. "Status of the decoy fleet?" she asked. "In position and ready to engage," came the reply from her tactical officer. "They know what they're volunteering for." Jisoo felt a moment of sadness for the brave souls who would sacrifice themselves to maintain the illusion of human weakness. Their deaths would serve a greater purpose, but that did not make the loss any easier to bear. "Signal from the hidden fleet?" she continued. "All 12 ships report ready. Captain Lee confirms the Soul's vengeance is prepared for dimensional insertion. And our special weapon? The World Breaker is armed and targeted. Dr. Kim reports 100% operational status." Jisoo took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would begin a war that would reshape the galaxy. "Very well. Signal all units. Operation Reversal is now active. Show the aliens what they expect to see, right up until we show them what they never imagined possible." Across the solar system, humanity's true military might remain hidden while their obvious defenses moved into position. The aliens would see a desperate species making a futile last stand with primitive technology. They would never suspect that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the first radio telescope detected alien signals decades ago. In the depths of space, alien sensors detected human ships moving to intercept their fleet. The readings confirmed everything the hegemony The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system like a plague of metal locusts. 3,000 vessels of varying sizes filled the darkness between the stars, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of a species that had never known defeat. At the center of the formation, Commander Taemin's flagship dominated the view, a 15-kilometer dreadnought that had broken the spirits of countless civilizations. "Magnificent, is it not?" Taemin said to his bridge crew as they studied the tactical displays. The Dominion's Fist was the crown jewel of the hegemony fleet, armed with weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been breached. "Look how the humans cower behind their pitiful defenses." His sensor officer, a nervous Clixon drone, clicked its mandibles as it studied the incoming data. "Commander, we detect approximately 50 human vessels moving to intercept. Their technology reads as primitive. Fusion drives, chemical thrusters, kinetic weapons. They appear to be throwing metal projectiles at our ships." The bridge erupted in laughter. Throwing metal at ships protected by energy shields was like attacking a starship with stones. Even the lowest-ranking alien knew that kinetic weapons had been obsolete for thousands of years. "How wonderfully pathetic," Taemin mused. "They actually think their museum pieces can threaten us. Very well, let us put them out of their misery quickly. Signal the fleet. Standard battle formation. We shall make this educational for any other primitive species watching." Light years away, the images from the alien fleet appeared on screens throughout human space. In the command bunker beneath Earth's moon, Admiral Jisoo Park watched the enemy formation with calculating eyes. Every detail had been anticipated, every movement predicted based on decades of studying hegemony tactics. "Perfect," she murmured. "They're following the textbook exactly. Signal the decoy fleet. Begin Phase 1. In space above Earth, 50 human vessels accelerated toward the massive alien formation. These ships were genuine examples of humanity's public technology, fusion-powered craft with limited weapons and basic armor. Their crews knew they were flying to their deaths, but they also knew their sacrifice would serve a greater purpose. Captain. Hyosang Park commanded the lead vessel, a heavy cruiser called Defiance. His ship had been built using technology that was deliberately outdated, designed to reinforce alien preconceptions about human capabilities. As he watched the overwhelming enemy force approaching, he felt no fear, only determination to play his part perfectly. "All ships," he broadcast to his small fleet. "Remember why we're here. Make them believe. Make them overconfident. Every second we keep their attention is another second for our real forces to prepare." The first engagement was brutally one-sided. Human kinetic rounds sparked harmlessly off alien energy shields, while plasma beams and particle cannons tore through human hulls like paper. The Defiance lasted 37 seconds before a direct hit from an alien dreadnought reduced it to expanding vapor. On the bridge of the Dominion's Fist, Commander Taemin watched the slaughter with satisfaction. "Is this the best they can offer? Their ships are made of metal and desperation. Signal the fleet. Advance to Mars orbit. We shall give them one final chance to surrender before we cleanse their pathetic planet." What Taemin did not know was that every moment of the battle was being recorded and analyzed by hidden human observers. Specialists studied alien weapon signatures, shield frequencies, and tactical patterns. Most importantly, they confirmed that the aliens were behaving exactly as predicted, with complete arrogance and total confidence in their superiority. In Dae, the underground facility beneath South Korea, Dr. Hyunwoo Kim watched the tactical feeds with grim satisfaction. "They're not even bothering to scan for hidden threats. Their sensor sweeps are perfunctory at best. They truly believe we're helpless." President Nayeon Cho stood beside him. her face pale but determined. "How many did we lose in the decoy fleet?" "All 50 ships," General Wu Jin Nam reported quietly. 2,738 souls. They knew the risks. "Their sacrifice will not be forgotten," the president said. "Dr. Kim, are our real weapons ready?" "The quantum tunneling arrays are charged and locked onto target. The dimensional phase ships are standing by in their pocket universes. We can begin phase 2 at your command." Across the solar system, the alien fleet continued its advance toward Earth. Their formations were loose and confident, showing none of the caution that experienced warriors would display when facing an unknown enemy. They had seen human technology and found it laughably inferior. They had no reason to suspect that everything they had witnessed was an elaborate deception. Captain Minho Lee sat in the command chair of the Soul's Vengeance, hidden in a dimensional pocket that existed parallel to normal space. Through quantum sensors, he could observe the alien fleet without being detected. His ship and 11 others like it waited in the spaces between reality, armed with weapons the galaxy had never imagined. "Status report," he called to his crew. "All systems nominal," replied his weapons officer. "Reality anchors are stable. Quantum tunneling torpedo bays are loaded and ready. We can phase into normal space on your command." "Outstanding. Signal." The other ships maintain dimensional stealth until the target reaches optimal position. The alien advance continued for several hours, their massive ships moving through space with casual arrogance. They passed the orbit of Mars without incident, their sensors detecting no threats beyond a few automated mining platforms that posed no danger to their mighty fleet. Commander Taman stood on his bridge, studying Earth through the forward viewports. The blue-green world looked so peaceful, so helpless. He had conquered dozens of similar planets, and they all showed the same beauty before he turned them into industrial complexes or testing grounds for new weapons. "Signal the humans," he ordered. "Give them our final terms." The transmission that reached Earth was everything Admiral Jisoo Park had expected. Taman's voice carried the same arrogant tone that had been used to intimidate thousands of other species. The terms were simple: complete surrender or total annihilation. Humans of Earth. The alien commander's image dominated screens across the planet. "You have seen the fate of your pathetic fleet. Your primitive weapons cannot harm us. Your technology is thousands of years behind ours. Surrender now, and some of you may live as servants to your betters. Resist further, and we will erase every trace of your species from existence." Admiral Park listened to the ultimatum with a slight smile. When it finished, she activated the general communication system and broadcast her response to every human. "Installation in the solar system. All stations. This is Admiral Park. The aliens have made their position clear. They see us as primitive. They see us as helpless. They expect us to surrender without a real fight." Her voice carried a note of steel that would have warned any wise opponent. "I think it's time we corrected their misconceptions. All units, execute Phase 2. Show them what humans are really capable of." In response to her words, systems that had been hidden for decades began to activate. Weapons that operated on principles unknown to galactic science charged their exotic energy cores. Ships that existed in folded space prepared to phase into normal reality. The aliens had wanted to see what humanity could do when pressed to the wall. They were about to get their wish in ways they could never have imagined. The war they expected to be over in hours was a The alien fleet hung in space like a constellation of death, 3,000 vessels arranged in perfect formation around their massive flagship. Commander Taman studied Earth through the main view screen of the Dominion's fist, his scaled features, showing the satisfaction of a predator about to claim easy prey. The blue planet looked so vulnerable, so helpless against the might of the hegemony. "Begin the bombardment," he ordered, settling into his command throne. "Target their population centers first. Let them see what happens to species that waste our time." His weapons officer, a tall Nethrim with tentacles instead of fingers, began inputting targeting coordinates. "Commander, should we not wait for, say, their surrender? Some of these creatures might be useful as slaves." "They had their chance," Taman replied coldly. "Besides, watching their planet burn will provide excellent entertainment for the crew. Fire when ready." But before the weapons could discharge, something impossible happened. A human ship materialized directly behind the alien formation, appearing out of empty space, as if it had always been there. The Soul's vengeance phased into normal reality with quantum precision, its dark hull absorbing sensor sweeps like a void in space. Captain Minho Lee stood on his bridge, studying the massive alien fleet spread out before him. His ship was tiny compared to the dreadnoughts surrounding him, but size meant nothing when dealing with weapons that operated outside normal physics. "Weapon status?" he asked calmly. "Quantum tunneling torpedoes are armed and ready." "His weapons," officer replied. "Reality anchors are locked onto the flagship. We have a perfect dimensional fix on their command vessel." "Outstanding. Signal Artemis Station. Initiate world-breaker firing sequence." 50,000 kilometers away, hidden within what appeared to be a routine asteroid mining operation, the most devastating weapon in human history began its final preparations. Weapons specialist Jin-Wan Choi had spent 5 years calibrating the quantum tunneling cannon known as Worldbreaker, but this would be its first test against a living target. "All stations report ready," he announced to the control room buried deep within the asteroid. "Quantum matrix is stable. Dimensional targeting is locked. We have a clear shot at the alien flagship." Dr. Hyun-Woo Kim's voice came through the communication system from the underground facility on Earth. "Confirm target acquisition. We only get one chance at this." "Target confirmed," Jin-Hwan replied, his hands steady on the firing controls despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. "The alien flagship is locked in our targeting computer. The shot will tunnel directly through folded space into their reactor core. Then take the shot. Show them what human science can accomplish." The Worldbreaker fired without fanfare. There was no dramatic beam of energy, no spectacular light show. The weapon simply reached through the barriers between dimensions and delivered its payload directly into the heart of the Dominion's fist. To external observers, nothing seemed to happen for several seconds. Then, reality broke. Commander Taman was in the middle of ordering the destruction of Earth's moon when existence simply stopped making sense around him. The quantum tunneling effect created a sphere of absolute nothingness where his flagship's reactor had been. The 15-kilometer dreadnought didn't explode. It ceased to exist. The effect spread outward with mathematical precision. Matter touched. By the quantum field was not destroyed, but erased, removed from the fundamental equations that held reality together. The mighty Dominion's fist, along with its crew of 50,000 aliens, simply vanished into a perfect sphere of void. Though, remaining hegemony fleet hung in space, their instruments unable to comprehend what they had witnessed. Where their flagship had been, there was now nothing, not debris, not energy, not even empty space in the conventional sense. A hole in reality itself marked where the most powerful vessel in their fleet had existed moments before. What happened? Admiral Vextor demanded from his heavy cruiser, his voice carrying the first note of uncertainty anyone had heard from hegemony leadership in centuries. Where is the Dominion's fist? His sensor operators frantically checked their instruments, hoping for some explanation that would make sense, but the readings were clear. The flagship was gone, vanished so completely that even its quantum signature had been erased from existence. "Sir," his science officer reported with a trembling voice, "our instruments detect no trace of the flagship. No debris, no energy signature, no gravitational anomaly. It's as if the ship never existed." On Earth, Admiral Jisoo Park watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The quantum tunneling weapon had performed exactly as predicted, removing the alien flagship from reality with surgical precision. Around her, the command staff maintained professional composure, despite having witnessed something that violated every known law of physics. "Effect analysis?" she asked Dr. Hyun-Woo Kim, who was monitoring the quantum resonance from his underground facility. "Perfect execution," he replied through the communication link. The dimensional tunnel collapsed cleanly. Reality is already healing itself around the void. No trace of the target remains in any accessible dimension. Engineer Sun Hee Bae studied her readings with fascination and horror. The quantum field erased approximately 30 cubic kilometers of space-time. Everything within that sphere has been removed from the fundamental structure of reality. It's like editing them out of the universe itself. The implications were staggering. This was not simply a powerful weapon. It was technology that could rewrite the basic laws that governed existence. No defense could stop an attack that came from directions that did not exist. No armor could protect against a weapon that struck. At the quantum level, in the alien fleet, panic began to spread as the truth sank in. The humans had not just destroyed their flagship, they had made it never exist. The species they had dismissed as primitive possessed technology that operated beyond galactic understanding. "Emergency protocols," Admiral Vextor shouted, his previous confidence shattered. "All ships, initiate evasive maneuvers. Unknown weapon system in operation." But there was no evading a weapon that struck through folded dimensions. Captain Minho Lee watched the alien fleet scatter with the precision of a predator studying frightened prey. His ship remained undetected in the chaos, its reality anchors keeping it phased between dimensions where alien sensors could not find it. "Signal the rest of our fleet," he ordered. "Phase into normal space. It's time to introduce ourselves properly." Across the solar system, 11 more ships materialized out of quantum foam. They appeared inside the alien formation, behind their lines, above and below their defensive positions. The Soul's Vengeance and her sister ships had positioned themselves with impossible precision, surrounding an enemy that thought space itself was empty. The sight of human vessels appearing from nowhere sent the alien fleet into complete chaos. These were not the primitive ships they had easily destroyed earlier. These craft moved through space as if the normal rules did not apply to them, phasing in and out of reality like ghosts made solid. "Impossible!" breathed hive mind Zilix of the Clixon, speaking through 1,000 voices at once. "Ships cannot simply appear in space. There are laws of physics that prevent such things. But human science had learned to bend those laws, to fold them into new shapes that opened doorways between dimensions. What the aliens called impossible was simply another tool in humanity's arsenal, developed in secret while they pretended to struggle with basic space travel. Commander Taman was gone, erased along with his mighty flagship. The weapon that had accomplished this feat was already charging for another shot, its quantum matrix locked onto a new target. The hegemony fleet found itself facing an enemy. The void where the Dominion's fist had existed pulsed with energies that hurt to observe. Space itself seemed wounded, reality struggling to comprehend the absence of something that had been erased from the fundamental equations of existence. The perfect sphere of nothingness measured exactly 30 kilometers in diameter, and within that boundary the laws of physics simply did not apply. Admiral Vextor stared at the impossible sight from the bridge of his heavy cruiser, his multiple, eyes wide with an emotion he had not felt in centuries, fear. In 3,000 years of conquest, the hegemony had never encountered anything that could simply delete a 15-kilometer dreadnought from reality. Their science had no explanation for what they had witnessed. Analysis, he demanded, his voice no longer carrying its usual authority. How did they do this? His science officer, a crystalline being whose species had mastered energy manipulation millions of years ago, trembled as it studied the sensor readings. Admiral, this violates everything we understand about warfare. The weapon did not travel through space. There was no energy beam, no projectile, no missile. The effect simply appeared inside our flagship's reactor core. That is impossible, Vextor insisted. Weapons must travel from point A to point B. They must exist in normal space to affect targets in normal space. Sir, the science officer's voice carried a note of growing hysteria. The humans appear to have weaponized dimensional folding. They attacked us from directions that do not exist in our three-dimensional space. Our shields, our armor, our defenses. None of them can stop an attack that bypasses normal space-time entirely. On Earth, Dr. Hyunwoo Kim monitored the quantum resonance effects with scientific fascination. The weapon had performed beyond his wildest expectations, creating a clean dimensional cut that severed the alien flagship from reality itself. Around the void, space-time was slowly healing, but the process would take days to complete. Remarkable, he murmured into his communication device. The quantum field effect is stabilizing. Reality is adapting to the absence, filling in the gaps where the ship used to exist. It's like the universe is editing its own history to account for what we removed. Engineer Sun-Hee Bei studied her instruments with a mixture of awe and terror. Doctor, the energy readings are off the charts. We've created a permanent scar in space-time. The void isn't healing. It's becoming a stable feature of local space. That was anticipated, Hyunwoo replied calmly. The quantum tunneling effect was designed to be irreversible. What we erase stays erased. It's the ultimate weapon, because there is no defense and no recovery. In the alien fleet, chaos reigned as commanders tried to understand what they were facing. Ships scattered in all directions, their orderly formations dissolving into panic. As captains realized their most powerful vessel had been destroyed by an enemy they could not even detect. Unknown human vessels appearing throughout the formation, reported a Vorthak destroyer captain. They're materializing out of empty space. Our sensors show nothing. Then suddenly there's a ship. Hive mind Zillick spoke through 1,000 voices. At once, the collective consciousness of the Klixen species struggling to process the impossible. This contradicts all known laws of physics. Matter cannot simply appear in space without traveling there first. Yet our instruments confirm the presence of hostile vessels that were not there moments before. Captain Minho Lee watched the alien confusion with professional satisfaction. The soul's vengeance hung motionless in space, its reality anchors, keeping it phased precisely between dimensions where enemy sensors could not find it. Around him, his crew prepared for the next phase of their attack. "Weapon status?" he asked. "Quantum tunneling torpedoes armed and ready," his weapons officer replied. "We have targeting locks on 12 enemy vessels. The dimensional matrix is stable for rapid-fire engagement." "Signal the fleet," Minho ordered. "Begin Phase 3. Show them that their flagship was just the beginning." The human ships opened fire with weapons that defied comprehension. Quantum tunneling torpedoes phased through normal space, appearing directly inside alien vessels without warning. Unlike the massive world breaker that had erased the flagship, these smaller weapons simply destroyed their targets in conventional explosions. But the effect was no less devastating for being traditional. A Klixen battlecruiser exploded as a torpedo materialized in its ammunition storage. A Vorthak destroyer split in half when a warhead appeared in its engine room. A Luminar energy vessel simply winked out of existence as quantum interference disrupted its coherence field. "They're inside our shields!" screamed a Nethrim captain as his ship died around him. "The weapons appear inside our hulls! There's no way to defend against this!" Admiral Vextor watched his fleet dissolve under the impossible human attack. Ships that had conquered star systems were being destroyed by an enemy that fought with technology beyond galactic understanding. The weapons came from nowhere, struck without warning, and could not be stopped by any known defense. "Retreat!" he finally ordered, his voice cracking with desperation. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. Get us out of this system." But even retreat was denied to them. As alien ships attempted to engage their faster-than-light drives, human vessels appeared directly in their path. The soul's vengeance materialized in front of a fleeing dreadnought, its reality anchors disrupting the quantum fields necessary for hyperspace travel. "Hyperspace interdiction fields detected," reported a panicked alien navigator. "The humans are blocking our escape routes." Captain Minho smiled grimly as he watched the trapped alien fleet. "Signal Admiral Park. Tell her the aliens are contained. None of them are leaving this system." In the underground command center, Admiral Jussu Park studied the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The battle that was supposed to last hours was already over. Of the 3,000 ships that had entered the Sol system with such confidence, nearly half had been destroyed or disabled. The remainder huddled together in tight formations, their commanders too terrified to move. "Casualties?" she asked. "Minimal," reported her tactical officer. "The dimensional phase ships report no damage. Our quantum weapons are operating at peak efficiency. The aliens have no effective response to our technology." President Neon Cho watched the battle from her emergency bunker, hardly able to believe what she was seeing. The species that had demanded humanity's surrender was now cowering in space, completely helpless against weapons they could not understand or counter. "How many of them are left?" she asked. General Wu Jin Nam consulted his displays. "Approximately 1,500 vessels still functional, but they're trapped. Our phase ships have surrounded them, and our quantum interdiction fields prevent escape to hyperspace." "And the world breaker?" "Charging for a second shot," the general replied. "Dr. Kim reports the weapon can fire again in approximately 20 minutes. One more shot like the first, and we can erase their entire command structure. The president considered the options before her. Humanity could destroy the remaining alien fleet completely, but that would be genocide on a massive scale. Alternatively, they could use this moment to establish humanity's position in the galaxy through demonstration rather than annihilation. Signal the alien fleet, she decided. It's time they understood their new situation. The transmission that reached Admiral Vextor came from Admiral Jesu Park herself, broadcast directly to every ship in the hegemony fleet. Her image appeared on alien screens throughout the formation, and her voice carried the confidence of someone who held absolute power. "This is Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Force," she began, her tone calm but implacable. "You came to our system expecting to face primitives. You demanded our surrender. You threatened to erase us from existence." She paused, letting the irony sink in. "Instead, you've discovered that humanity possesses technology your science cannot comprehend. We can erase your ships from reality itself. We can appear anywhere in space without warning. We can prevent your escape and destroy you at will." The alien crews listened in stunned silence as the truth of their situation became clear. "However," Admiral Park continued, "humanity is not interested in pointless slaughter. You have two choices: surrender immediately and accept new terms for galactic peace, or we will demonstrate our weapons until none of you remain to carry word back to your masters. Choose quickly. Our patience has limits. In the void where the news spread through hegemony space faster than light itself could travel. Emergency transmissions burst from the Sol system, carrying impossible reports that shattered everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. On a dozen capital worlds, military commanders stared at their screens in disbelief as the reports arrived. "The Dominion's fist has been erased?" High Counselor Vextor's voice cracked as he read the transmission from his surviving fleet. "What does that mean? Erased?" His aide, a nervous luminar energy being, pulsed with confused colors. "The report is unclear, Honored Counselor. Admiral Vextor claims the humans used some form of dimensional weapon that removed the flagship from existence entirely. No debris, no energy signature, no trace that it ever existed." "That is scientifically impossible," Vextor declared, but his voice lacked conviction. The hegemony's science was based on millions of years of accumulated knowledge from dozens of species. If their science said something was impossible, it should be impossible. Yet the reports kept coming. On the insectoid homeworld of Clixar, Hive Queen Zilix processed the battle data through 1,000 interconnected minds. The collective consciousness of her species struggled to comprehend weapons that attacked from directions that did not exist in normal space-time. "Show me the recordings again," she commanded through her swarm voice. The holographic display replayed the impossible moments when human ships materialized out of empty space, appearing inside alien formations without traveling there. The Clixon had mastered spacefold technology themselves, but this was different. These ships were not folding space. They were existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Analysis," Zilix demanded. Her science drones clicked in unison before responding. Hive Queen, the humans appear to have weaponized quantum probability. Their ships exist in superposition states, simultaneously present and absent until they choose to collapse into normal space. Our weapons cannot target what does not fully exist. On the crystalline world of Nethros, the Nethrim Council of Elders studied the reports with growing horror. Their species had achieved perfect energy manipulation over eons of evolution, bending light and matter to their will. Yet here was evidence of beings who could bend reality itself. How is this possible? Elder Vorthak asked, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns that indicated deep distress. We have studied human transmissions for decades. Their technology was primitive. Their ships used chemical rockets. The deception appears to have been complete, replied Elder Zillos. While we observed their crude public technology, they were secretly developing weapons that operate outside conventional physics. They made us believe they were helpless while preparing to rewrite the laws of war. The implications were staggering. Every military doctrine in the galaxy was based on the assumption that weapons must travel through space to reach their targets. Ships could be tracked, missiles could be intercepted, energy beams could be deflected. But how do you defend against an attack that bypasses space itself? In the hegemony capital system, emergency sessions convened as reports arrived from the Sol system. The remaining fleet, trapped by human interdiction fields, continued transmitting detailed analyses of impossible human technology. Each report made the situation seem more hopeless. "They can appear anywhere," reported one surviving captain. "Our sensors detect nothing. Then suddenly there's a human ship in our formation. When we target them, they simply vanish back into whatever dimension they came from. Their weapons strike without warning," added another. "No energy beam, no projectile, no missile. The warhead simply appears inside our ships. There is no defense because there is no attack to defend against." Dr. Da-Yun Lim, head of Earth's Xenobiology Division, monitored the alien communications from her station beneath Earth's surface. The quantum decryption systems gave humanity access to every transmission the aliens sent, providing insight into their growing panic. "They're terrified," she reported to Admiral Park. "Their entire understanding of warfare has been shattered. Multiple species are demanding immediate withdrawal from human space." "What about their leadership?" Admiral Park asked. "Divided," Da-Yun replied. "Some want to negotiate. Others want to bring in their entire fleet and overwhelm us with numbers. A few are suggesting they surrender immediately and hope we're merciful." "And the scary ones?" Da-Yun's expression grew serious. "There's a faction calling for the deployment of planet-killer weapons. They want to destroy Earth from long range, before we can strike back. They're more afraid of our technology spreading than they are of losing this war." The revelation sent chills through the human command structure. They had known this was a possibility, that the aliens might choose mutual destruction rather than face defeat by a supposedly primitive species. It was a risk they had calculated and prepared for. In space above Earth, Captain Minho Lee received new orders from the command center. His ship, the Soul's Vengeance, was to phase directly into the hegemony capital system and deliver a message. That could not be ignored. "Quantum jump coordinates locked," his navigator reported. "We can phase jump directly to their homeworld in approximately 30 minutes. "Outstanding," Minho replied. "Signal the other ships. We're about to pay a house." Call to the aliens' leadership. Time to show them that distance means nothing when you can fold space itself. The dimensional phase jump was a technology that violated every known law of faster-than-light travel. Instead of entering hyperspace and traveling through it, human ships could step sideways through folded dimensions and emerge at any point in the galaxy instantly. It was another impossible technology that would rewrite galactic understanding of physics. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Vextor watched his trapped fleet with growing desperation. Half his ships were gone, destroyed by weapons his science could not explain. The remainder were surrounded by human vessels that could not be detected until they chose to be seen. Escape was impossible. The humans had somehow locked the entire star system against hyperspace travel. "Signal from the human admiral," his communications officer reported with a trembling voice. "Put it through," Vextor ordered, dreading what he might hear. Admiral Jisoo Park's image appeared on his screen, her expression calm but implacable. "Admiral Vextor, you have had time to consider your situation. Your fleet is trapped. Your flagship has been erased from existence. Your weapons cannot harm our ships, and our weapons can destroy you at will. It's time to discuss terms." "What terms?" Vextor asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Complete withdrawal from this system," Admiral Park replied. "Recognition of Earth as a sovereign power. Reparations for the human lives lost in your unprovoked attack. And most importantly, a new treaty establishing rules for future contact between our species. And if we refuse?" Admiral Park smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Then we demonstrate our weapons until none of you survive to carry word back to your leaders. The choice is yours, Admiral. But choose quickly. We have other business to attend to." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Vextor alone with the impossible decision: surrender to a species they had dismissed as primitive, or face annihilation by weapons that operated beyond their understanding of science. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, human phase ships were already moving toward hegemony capital worlds. The aliens were about to learn that their home systems were no safer than their fleets. When you could step through dimensions, distance became meaningless, and no fortress was beyond. The Soul's vengeance materialized in the heart of the hegemony capital system without warning, appearing directly above the sprawling orbital city that served as the center of galactic government. Captain Minho Lee stood on his bridge, studying the massive structures that had coordinated the conquest of thousands of worlds. Today, those same structures would witness the end of hegemony supremacy. "Scan complete," his sensor officer reported. 14 defense platforms, 600 patrol ships, and approximately 50 million beings living in the orbital habitats. The main government complex is located in the central sphere. "Any response to our arrival?" Minho asked. "Total chaos," his communications officer replied with a slight smile. "They're demanding to know how we got here, how we bypassed their early warning systems, and whether we're really human. Several ships are trying to target us, but our reality anchors are keeping us phased between dimensions." Minho nodded with satisfaction. The dimensional phase technology made human ships effectively untouchable when they chose to be. They could observe and interact with normal space while remaining immune to conventional attacks. "Signal the government complex," he ordered. It's time they understood their new situation. Light years away in the Sol system, Admiral Jisoo Park coordinated a campaign that was rewriting galactic military doctrine. Strike teams led by Captain Taehyung Yoon had appeared throughout hegemony space, targeting supply depots, communication, relays, and military installations with surgical precision. "Status report," she requested from her command center. Phase Team Alpha has neutralized the main ammunition depot in the Vorthax system, reported her tactical officer. Team Beta destroyed the hyperspace communication array in the Clixon sector. Team Gamma eliminated the fuel processing station serving the Outer Rim fleets. Casualties? Minimal on our side. The aliens cannot target our ships effectively. Most of their return fire hits empty space where our vessels appeared to be. Meanwhile, our quantum tunneling weapons continue to perform perfectly. The strategy was devastatingly effective. Human ships would phase into a target system, destroy critical infrastructure with weapons that could not be stopped, then vanish back into dimensional space before the aliens could respond. It was warfare conducted at the speed of thought, limited only by how quickly human crews could calculate phase jump coordinates. In the underground facility beneath South Korea, Dr. Hyun-woo Kim monitored the quantum effects of humanity's dimensional warfare. Each phase jump created ripples in space-time that his instruments could detect and analyze. The technology was working beyond his most optimistic projections. Dr. Kim, President Naeon Cho's voice came through the communication system. "What's our strategic situation?" "Complete superiority," he replied confidently. "The aliens have no effective response to our technology. Their weapons cannot target what exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their sensors cannot detect ships that phase between realities. We can strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning and withdraw before they can respond." "What about their planet-killer weapons?" "Several species are moving such weapons toward our outer territories," Dr. Kim acknowledged. "But they're useless against targets they cannot locate. Our deep space monitoring stations are dimensional installations. They exist outside normal space-time. The aliens could bombard empty space for years without hitting anything important." Engineer Sun-hee Bae studied the tactical displays from her station, watching human forces systematically dismantle hegemony infrastructure across dozens of star systems. The quantum resonance effects are cascading through their communication networks. Every time we phase jump near their installations, we disrupt their subspace transmissions. They're losing the ability to coordinate their forces. On the hegemony capital world, High Counselor Vextor received report after report of impossible human attacks. Supply lines were severed, communication networks disrupted, and defensive installations eliminated by an enemy that struck without warning and vanished before retaliation was possible. "How many systems have been attacked?" he demanded from his aide. 47 confirmed, with reports still coming in," the luminar energy being replied, its colors flickering with distress. "The humans appear to be targeting our logistics network specifically. They're not trying to conquer territory, they're destroying our ability to maintain our fleet." "What about our counterattacks?" "Unsuccessful," the aide admitted. "Our ships arrive at human positions to find empty space. The humans appear to have no fixed installations we can target. Their vessels simply vanish when we approach." The truth was even more devastating than the aliens realized. Humanity had learned from centuries of studying hegemony tactics. They had built a military designed specifically to counter traditional galactic warfare, mobile, elusive, and armed with weapons that operated outside conventional physics. Captain Tae-hyung Yoon led Strike Team Gamma through a series of lightning raids that left hegemony commanders questioning their sanity. His ship, the Incheon's Fury, would appear inside enemy formations, deliver a devastating salvo of quantum tunneling torpedoes, then phase out of normal space before the aliens could respond. "Target the fuel depot," he ordered as his ship materialized in the Nethrim system. "Maximum firepower, then immediate withdrawal." The attack lasted 17 seconds. Quantum warheads appeared directly inside the massive fuel storage tanks, creating explosions that lit up the system like a second sun. Before the defending fleet could react, the Incheon's fury had vanished back into dimensional space, leaving behind only destruction and confusion. "Strike successful," Taehyung reported, to Admiral Park. "The Nethrim Fourth Fleet is now stranded without fuel. They'll have to abandon their advance on human territories." Similar reports flooded in from across hegemony space. Human strike teams were systematically destroying the infrastructure that kept the alien empire functioning. Without fuel, ammunition, and communication networks, the mighty hegemony fleet was becoming a collection of isolated, helpless vessels. In the capital system, Captain Minho Lee delivered humanity's ultimatum directly to the Galactic Council. His image appeared on screens throughout the government complex, and his words carried the authority of a species that had just demonstrated its ability to appear anywhere in the galaxy. "Members of the Hegemony Council," he began, his voice calm, but implacable. "Your fleets are scattered and helpless. Your supply lines are severed. Your communication networks are disrupted. You have witnessed technology that operates beyond your understanding of physics." He paused, letting the implications sink in before continuing. "Humanity offers you one final opportunity for peace, complete withdrawal from our territories, recognition of Earth as a sovereign power, and reparations for the lives lost in your unprovoked aggression. In return, we will cease our military operations and consider establishing diplomatic relations." The alien leaders listened in stunned silence as the human captain outlined terms that would have been laughable hours earlier, but now represented their only hope for survival. "You have demonstrated that you cannot defeat us," Minho continued. "We have demonstrated that we can appear anywhere in your territory without warning. Every ship, every station, every world in your empire is now within range of our weapons. Choose wisely. This offer will not be repeated." The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Council to contemplate a reality that had been completely overturned. The species they had planned to enslave in an afternoon had become their master in a matter of hours. Dr. Dayun Lim monitored alien communications from her xenobiology station, watching as panic spread through hegemony leadership. "They're in complete chaos," she reported. "Multiple species are calling for immediate surrender. Others want to continue fighting, but they have no plan for countering our technology." "What about civilian populations?" President Nyan Cho asked, concern evident in her voice. "No sign of civilian targeting from our forces," Dayun replied. "Our strikes have been limited to military and infrastructure targets. The aliens are beginning to realize we could have been hitting their cities if we wanted to. The psychological impact was as devastating as the military defeat. The hegemony had built its power on the belief that they possessed superior technology and tactical doctrine. Now they faced an enemy that made their weapons look like children's toys and their tactics seem like ancient history. Across the galaxy, alien species that had supported hegemony expansion began reconsidering their positions. If the mighty hegemony could be defeated by a single primitive species, what did that say about the stability of galactic civilization? "6 months after the Battle of Saul, the Treaty of Terra was signed in the rebuilt chambers of what had once been the Galactic Hegemony Council. The massive crystal dome now bore new inscriptions in humanity's languages alongside the traditional alien scripts, marking the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. President Nyon Cho stood at the central podium where Commander Taman had once boasted of humanity's weakness. Around her, representatives from 57 species watched in respectful silence as she delivered the speech that would reshape the galaxy's future. 6 months ago, your leaders came to our system with demands for surrender, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. They expected to find a primitive species that would bow before superior technology. Instead, they discovered that sometimes the greatest strength comes from being underestimated. In the audience, former High Counselor Vextor sat with the other, surviving hegemony leaders. His scaled features showed the exhaustion of a being who had watched his entire world view crumble in a matter of hours. The mighty empire he had helped build was gone, replaced by something unprecedented in galactic history, a voluntary alliance based on mutual respect rather than conquest. Admiral Jisoo Park observed the proceedings from her position near the main entrance, her new title as Fleet Admiral of the Terran Space Command reflecting humanity's role as the galaxy's primary guardian. The quantum-locked insignia on her uniform marked her as commander of the most powerful military force in known space. The old hegemony was built on fear, President Cho continued. Species surrendered because they believed resistance was hopeless. Worlds submitted because they thought they had no choice. That era is over. The new galactic alliance will be based on a simple principle: mutual cooperation between equals. The response from the assembled delegates was mixed. Some species welcomed the change, having chafed under hegemony rule for centuries. Others worried about their position in a galaxy where humanity's dimensional warfare technology made traditional military power meaningless. Dr. Hyunwoo Kim watched from the scientific observer section, his mind already working on applications of quantum manipulation that went far beyond warfare. The technology that had won the war was now being adapted for peaceful purposes: faster-than-light communication, instant transportation of goods, and medical applications that could save millions of lives. The Earth Defense Force will serve as guarantor of galactic peace, President Cho announced. We will not seek to conquer or control other species. We will not demand tribute or impose our values on other worlds. But we will not tolerate aggression between member species, and we will defend any world that requests our protection. In the months following humanity's victory, dozens of former hegemony colonies had petitioned for protection against local warlords and opportunistic neighbors. The sight of human phase ships materializing in their skies had become a symbol of security rather than threat. Captain Minho Lee commanded the Soul's Vengeance from its new base in the former hegemony capital, system now renamed New Geneva in honor of the diplomatic protocols that governed the alliance. His ship and its sister vessels patrolled the galaxy's trade routes, their mere presence enough to deter piracy and aggression. Status report, he requested from his bridge crew during their routine patrol of the Outer Rim territories. All quiet, Captain, his censor officer replied. The Corvin merchant convoy reports safe passage through the asteroid fields. The Vorthak mining operation requests no assistance. 2 Clixon scout ships are maintaining respectful distance. Outstanding, Minho replied. The transformation of former enemies into nervous but cooperative neighbors never ceased to amaze him. Species that had once conquered star systems now went out of their way to avoid conflict with human forces. Engineer Sun-hee Bei's voice came through the communication system from her research station on Earth. Captain, We're receiving reports of unusual quantum fluctuations in the Andromeda approach vector. Dr. Kim wants to investigate the possibility of contact with extragalactic civilizations. The implications were staggering. Humanity's dimensional technology had revealed that their local galaxy was just one of countless others, each potentially harboring civilizations with their own unique approaches to science and warfare. The prospect of contact with beings from beyond their galaxy opened possibilities that dwarfed even their recent victory. On Earth, children in schools across the planet learned about the day their species had changed the course of galactic history. The story had already become legend, how humanity had pretended weakness while secretly developing weapons that rewrote the laws of physics, how a single shot had broken the confidence of an empire that had ruled for millennia. Dr. Da-hyun Lim worked with xenobiological research teams to establish proper diplomatic protocols with species whose psychology remained alien despite their military defeat. Understanding the cultural and biological differences between dozens of species required patience and careful study. The Luminar delegation requests clarification on human mating rituals, she reported to the diplomatic staff with barely concealed amusement. Apparently, they find our pair bonding behavior fascinating but confusing. Tell them it's complicated, replied Ambassador Ji-won Park, who had been appointed as humanity's primary representative to the Galactic Alliance. Half the time, we don't understand it ourselves. The lighter moments helped balance the serious work of building a stable galactic government. Trade agreements had to be negotiated, territorial disputes resolved, and military protocols established. Humanity found itself in the unique position of being powerful enough to enforce peace, but wise enough to prefer cooperation. General Wu Jin Nam oversaw the integration of former hegemony military forces into the new alliance defense network. Many alien officers had requested assignment to units working alongside human forces, eager to learn from the species that had revolutionized warfare. The Nethrim Third Fleet reports ready for joint training exercises, he informed Admiral Park, during their weekly briefing. They're particularly interested in learning defensive applications of dimensional technology. Approved, Admiral Park replied. But remind them that our most advanced systems remain classified. They can learn basic principles, but the full capabilities of our weapons stay with human crews only. The restriction was necessary but carefully explained. Humanity shared enough technology to maintain galactic peace while keeping enough secrets to ensure their continued security. It was a delicate balance that required constant attention. President Cho concluded her address to the Galactic Alliance with words that would be remembered for generations. We stand at the beginning of a new age. For the first time in galactic history, peace is maintained not by fear of conquest, but by respect for each species' right to exist. The universe is vast enough for all of us to thrive. The applause that followed came from beings who had once been enemies, now united under humanity's protection and leadership. The species that had been dismissed as primitive had become the galaxy's guardian, and their former oppressors had become their allies. As the delegates filed out of the chamber to begin the complex work of governing a galaxy, Admiral Jisoo Park remained behind for a moment, studying the void visible through the great windows. Somewhere in that darkness, the wound in space-time where the Dominion's fist had been erased still marked the spot where everything had changed. Her reflection was interrupted by a communication from Captain Tae-hyung-yoon, whose strike team was investigating reports of unknown vessels in the galactic rim. Admiral, we're picking up signatures that don't match any known technology. The energy patterns are completely unfamiliar. New contact? Admiral Park asked. Possibly. Extragalactic, Taehyung replied. The quantum resonance suggests dimensional manipulation, but using principles we haven't seen before. They might be trying to make contact. Admiral Park smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of facing the unknown. Humanity had mastered their local galaxy, but the universe was vast and full of surprises. There would always be new challenges, new civilizations to meet, and new problems to solve. Set course for the contact zone, she ordered. It's time to find out what else is out there. The galaxy that had once threatened to destroy humanity now looked to them for protection and leadership. From a species dismissed as primitive, humans had become the guardians